In 1966, American Express launched the legendary Gold Card, meant to be the perfect travel companion for those who trotted the globe for work. Almost 60 years later, this card is still holding strong, although understandably, it's gone through many changes. Welcome back to the CreditVerse channel. If you're new here, my name is Alion, and today we're going to be exploring the American Express Gold Card. We'll first talk about the current sign-up bonus and how much you can expect to earn from the card every year. Then, we'll talk about some other benefits you get from being a card member, before showing you guys a couple of cool ways you can redeem your points. Be sure to also stick around until the end, where we're going to give our thoughts on how we think American Express can improve the Gold Card and bring it to a whole new level. Before we get into the bonus, we feel compelled to mention that there's two distinct flavors of the Gold Card. There's the Classic Gold and the Elegant Rose Gold. The Classic Gold is incredibly bold. The light hits it and really makes it shine. It's a bit too flashy for my taste, but of course is the quintessential Gold Card. The Rose Gold, on the other hand, is a lot more subdued. Some would argue it's a bit more feminine, but I'd have to disagree here. The copper color looks really classy in person, and honestly it's not too much like what they show on the website. If you're scratching your head on why you spent your last 20 seconds on the internet watching someone compare two slices of stainless steel, don't click off just yet as we're getting into the important stuff. Welcome bonuses have long been a reason people added the Gold Card to their rotation. A welcome bonus, otherwise also known as a sign-up bonus or a sign-on bonus, is just a bunch of points you get with your card after you hit a bunch of thresholds in the first few months. For the gold, the current bonus stands at a respectable 70,000 membership reward points. You get 5,000 points for every month you spend $1,000 on the card within the first 12 months, and the last 10,000 points are given when you spend $4,000 on the card within the first 3 months. This elevated bonus is available via a refer a friend link, so be sure to ask your friends if they have this card, or feel free to use the refer a friend link we have in the description below, as it helps out the channel quite a bit. As with all other bonuses on cards these days, the 70,000 is nowhere near the 90,000 all-time highs we saw during COVID, but I think it's fair to assume those kind of bonuses are gone. It's also a little bit annoying that credit card issuers are now spreading the bonus over the entire year, as opposed to just a couple of months, because it makes you have to keep track of the bonus every single month if you have multiple cards. Now moving on into earn rates. Earn rates are just how many points you earn with your card on your everyday spend. For the gold, you get 2 membership reward points for every dollar spent on travel, as well as grocery, gas, and at drugstores. You get 1x everywhere else, which is a pretty standard earn rate we see across all the MR cards so far. Also to note here, you get an additional point per dollar spent on the Amex travel portal. So let's say if you're comparing a hotel between Expedia and the Amex portal and the prices are exactly the same, it may make sense to just book through the Amex travel portal and take advantage of that 3x earn rate. We wouldn't recommend doing this for flights, as booking through the carrier like Air Canada or WestJet is definitely the best way to go in case things do go wrong, because they're the ones responsible. To note here, there's also no additional multiplier on dining or food delivery purchases, which is pretty interesting considering all the other cards in this segment pretty much have an elevated earn rate or a bonus for those two categories. Now just looking at earn rates in isolation, this card is definitely not a workhorse compared to the Amex Cobalt, as the Amex Cobalt's 5x earn rate for food delivery and dining just blows this out of the water. Now just looking on the year-on-year value, so just how many points you'd get if you just spent on this card not including the bonus, we took the average of how much we spent over the past few months and just extrapolated it over the course of a year. So your first year value for this card ends up being about $2,100, $1,400 for the bonus, and $700 for spending on the card, with subsequent years coming in at $700 a year when not counting the annual fee. When you do take into account the annual fee, your first year value ends up being about $1,850, and subsequent years come in at $450 a piece. Luckily though, you get plenty of value out of this annual fee when you take a look at the perks. Starting us off, you get a Priority Pass membership worth about $100 as part of the perks package with this card. Unlike the Platinum card though, there's no complimentary access included with this perk, and you have to spend the prevailing rate at every single lounge, which we see ends up being about 50 Canadian dollars a piece. This could be worth it if you have a really long layover and you want somewhere to relax, but otherwise we don't really think this benefit is worth a whole lot. Luckily though, lounge benefits don't end there. You do also get 4 passes to Plaza Premium Lounges in Canada, which do end up being a pretty nice place to relax. You can use this for yourself over 4 visits, or take yourself and 3 guests over in 1 visit and just enjoy the lounge before a flight. Plaza Premium Lounges don't really compare to the dedicated international first and business class lounges we see in many airports around the world, but overall, in Canadian airports, they're pretty solid, and honestly, I'd say they're better than Maple Leaf Lounges perhaps, but not as good as the Air Canada Cafe. Moving into the next benefit, Amex did a nifty bit of cost cutting here, giving you a $50 credit for Nexus with this card. On first glance, this looks perfect. Nexus looks like it's $50, and you just get that pass for free. On closer inspection though, this credit is worth 50 Canadian dollars and Nexus is 50 American dollars, so you do end up paying like $17 or $20 just to get the Nexus perk, which I guess is a good way to save a bunch of money, but I think Amex should have just included, a slightly better perk here and just let us get away with it. If you do travel to the US quite a bit, Nexus is a definite pickup as it can save you a bunch of time and it's definitely worth paying the $17 or $20 of the difference in exchange rates. But just a little bit frustrating here that Amex decided to cut costs. Another perk here is the $100 travel credit used for hotel or flight bookings. Unlike other travel credits though, that get triggered automatically when you hit a certain spend threshold on travel purchases, or ones that you can apply retroactively on any travel purchase, for the Amex cards you have to make this purchase through the Amex travel website. This is pretty much just a reskinned version of Expedia, and we would recommend taking advantage of this credit as it does save you $100, but we would do it on a hotel over a flight as we mentioned earlier, as flights can always get a little bit messy, and hotels just end up being a little bit easier almost every time. As with all other Amexes, an underrated perk ends up being access to Amex offers, which are basically just a bunch of coupons you get at different stores over the course of a year. Currently on my gold card I have some out for Expedia, Harry Rosen, and Adobe, and over the past couple of years, I had some for Disney+, Lululemon, and United Airlines, so always be sure to keep a lookout for those. If you are a Swiftie though, I do have some bad news for you. Unlike in the US, where Amex dealt with all the Taylor Swift concerts, in Canada it's done by RBC and the Avion program, so you do miss out on that. Before we get into how you can magically turn your 70,000 point bonus into some pretty incredible business class flights, if you guys are enjoying the video thus far, we urge you to hit subscribe, as over 80% of you are subscribed, so just be sure to give that button some love. As I'm sure you guys know, this is our favorite section as we get to spend a couple of hours doing a bunch of dummy bookings finding out the coolest ways to use your points. With Amex membership reward points, the opportunities really seem endless. Now here are some really fun redemptions we came up with. If you're new here, don't worry, we're still going to mention some of these standard ones in just a couple of minutes, but we're just going to talk about some really cool ones we found over the past couple of days. With your bonus, that should end up being about 82,000 points, so 70,000 from the sign-on bonus, and then at least 12,000 points from the $1,000 you spend every single month, coming in at 1 MR point per dollar spent. You can fly from San Francisco to Tokyo in United's flagship Polaris product for just 75,000 points. If you scrape together a few thousand more points, you can also fly from Vancouver all the way to Sydney in Air Canada Signature Class, which is almost a 16-hour hop for just 85,000 points. Of course, this is provided that you do find some availability. We know that, Vancouver to Australia redemptions tend to be pretty hard, but if you get lucky, this is something you can definitely redeem for really, really strong value. Moving a bit eastward, another interesting product you can try is flying from Detroit to Istanbul in Turkish Airlines business class. This comes in at a bargain 70,000 points for a 10-hour flight and one of the better products we've seen so far. Of course, there's also the pretty standard options here. If you want to fly Air Canada Signature Class within North America, and you find availability for 25,000 to 30 points, you can take 2 or perhaps even 3 of those flights and still have a couple of points left over. Other options end up being Swiss's excellent business class from Montreal to Zurich for just 60,000 points, and also from Montreal over to Frankfurt with Lufthansa for also just about 60,000 points. Another fan favorite is the Montreal to Doha route on Qatar Airways Q Suites if you transfer your points over to British Airways Avios. This route would cost you about 70,000 points if you find some availability, and you can use the additional 12,000 points you have saved up to connect to somewhere else in Asia and take advantage of the excellent Al Safa First Class Lounge in Doha. There's a handful of other ways you can use your points. We made a full video on that, which we've linked in the description below if you do need some inspiration there. If you have your flight arrangement sorted, you can also just transfer your points over to American Express's hotel partners in Marriott Bonvoy or Hilton Honors. Value here is a little bit weaker as you're often going to be getting closer to 1 cent per point as opposed to the 2 cents per point or plus you'd be getting by transferring over to airline partners, but if you do have that sorted already, it's definitely something you can consider. Now, why do I think this card is stuck in the middle, and what are some ways we can really improve upon it? My thoughts here are actually pretty simple. It's not really a true travel card as it only has 4 passes to Plaza Premium Lounges in Canada as opposed to a more extensive lounge access network, and it only has a slightly better insurance suite than something like the Amex Cobalt for effectively the exact same net annual fee. As we've talked about in the past, the Cobalt has really strong earn rates. The 5x on dining, food delivery, and groceries is absolutely stellar, followed up by the 3x on streaming, 2x on transit, and then 1x on travel and everything else you get with the card, which of course just blows this card right out of the water. You can also now transfer your points from the Amex Cobalt over to airline partners as well as hotel partners, which you couldn't do before, which was really separating these two cards and made people, opt for the gold because they could transfer to airline partners. But now you can do the same thing with both, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense on the surface to pick this card up. There are 2 ways I think they can go with this. Either make it a full-fledged travel card, or fully commit to it being a hybrid of the two. For it to become a real travel card, I would perhaps give it maybe a few more lounge passes, perhaps 6 or 8, which should be enough for the average person over the course of a year. I'd also increase the earn rate on travel purchases to 3x from the current 2x we have, and then with it, perhaps even increase the annual fee by $40 or $50 to make it $300 instead of the $250 it is currently, which should be compensated with the additional perks you get. To make it a true hybrid, I honestly don't think it would take very much at all. Giving it a better earn rate on dining, grocery, and food delivery, perhaps the 3x compared to the 2x it currently has, would go a long way to really cementing this as a true hybrid of the two. The other benefits don't really need to be changed. I think if you're really committing to it being a hybrid, the 4 lounge passes and then the pretty strong earn rates you get would make it a really easy pickup, and perhaps more people would consider it over the Cobalt if they do want to take advantage of some of the travel perks you get. Of course, we are no experts here. Amex has much more data than us, and I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing, and they're able to maximize the value they're getting out of this card. But if you guys have any suggestions, be sure to let us know in the comments below. I'm actually really interested to see what you guys all come up with. With that, we're going to wrap up today's video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to give it a like, and if you want more content like this delivered straight to your sub box, hit that subscribe button. With that, we'll see you next week. Take care.